you've ever been in a weekend brief and the commander asks if there are any questions before he released you guys, some guy raised his hand and he asked a question that only pertained to himself, but it kept the meeting going for another 2 hours. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like, comment. All those things are fantastic and help my channel grow. The comment section, like I mentioned before, is actually internet famous at this point. They're savages, and it's actually its own kind of Mad Max culture and that type of thing. But get in there and check them out. Guys, this channel is currently supported by Gun Mag Warehouse. They help us out quite a bit. They don't ask for anything except that if you want to buy some magazines, get in there to their website and buy them. They're at a pretty good price, so they crush it. So let's thank them. We also have Alonzo Defense Group for belts and sick t-shirts, or Teespring, and Vertex for some sick concealed carry shirts. Discount code Grantham. Guys, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about today's video, which is on the Walther PPQ Q4 Tac. Tactical. Good times. So, like any other 9mm handgun on the market right now that was made pretty recently, it is very reliable, it is very accurate, and there are no problems there. These pistols have great track records so far of being reliable and working in a variety of different conditions and not failing. So there is no problems when it comes to that. I have no doubt that this pistol would hold up in a variety of different conditions. But what really makes kind of these reviews interesting, I think, is when we start getting into the nitty-gritty. We talk details, we talk ergonomics, and we talk about why you might choose or not choose this pistol based on some design features. So that's kind of what we do. So let's get into it. So like I said, it's extremely reliable and accurate. I've done 5,000 rounds on this particular handgun. Quick note, Walther did provide this handgun to me. They contacted me. They said, would you like to review it? I said, yes, I would be interested in reviewing it. They sent it to me, but there has been no exchange of money or some other gratuities, whether it be delicious steak or something like that. So this is the Walther. This is what we have. So what we're going to do is, instead of pros and cons, I'm just going to work my way through the gun and we're going to talk about everything. So let's start with the grip. So the grip is a little bit more shallow as far as the grip angle is concerned compared to the Glock 19, 17, all those types of handguns. That can be bad or good, kind of depending on a couple things. A lot of people find that the Glocks are somewhat, here's Glock 19 right here, are somewhat uncomfortable to bring to eye level because you have to bring your wrist a little bit more forward. So some people find that that shallower angle makes for a more natural pointability with the handgun, and I definitely do agree. The problem is that when you go with that shallower angle, you're not able to kind of get into the gun as aggressively as you would with the Glock 19 or 17 or just any Glock model. So there are some trade-offs there, but some people will find this a lot more ergonomic and fit their hand better. And that kind of gets us into the kind of design of the grip. Straight up, I do think that the grip looks kind of ugly, but it is also very comfortable. It is contoured very well compared to a Glock. Now, I know that this particular Glock right here had some work done on it and had the finger grooves removed and that type of thing, but the Glocks have never been particularly comfortable to just hold. So the Walther PPQ definitely does feel a lot better. Now, the back straps are interchangeable. You can swap them out for whatever size you need if you've got, giant hands. Personally, I have kind of medium-sized man hands, and there are medium-sized man hands for people who say that man hands are just large. But it fits very well, so there are no problems when it comes to that. The magazine release, easy to hit. It is reversible. I've had no problems actuating that. I don't have to break my grip or anything like that when I'm going to it, so it works very well. I don't really have a preference between that and kind of the Gen 4 type mag releases that you have in the Glocks, which are kind of ramped, versus kind of the button that you have on the Walther PPQ. Both are equally just as easy to actuate. The grip texture. So on Glock Gen 4s, I always thought the grip texture to be kind of abrasive and that type of thing. So I do like the grip texture quite a bit on this. I find it subtle. It feels good. There are no problems kind of controlling the gun with it. So good on them there. No problems. Kind of moving up from there, we're going to get to the slide stop, slide release. So the slide release is ambi for one, but it is also enormous. It is very long. So that's good and bad. On the one hand, it's very easy when you're doing a mag change to simply nail that. You're not going to miss that freaking thing. It's just huge. It's like the length of my thumb. But at the same time, depending on your grip, and you should be running a high modern grip, there is a greater chance that as you're gripping the handgun that you're going to be depressing on the slide lever. So what can happen is that you can end up keeping the gun from locking back when you're firing because of how big that is. So I do prefer, personally, the smaller slide releases of guns like the CZs and the Glocks. I just don't find a need for the larger ones. But that's going to depend on you and kind of how you're built and that type of thing. So this might be a plus for you. We're going to move to probably the best part about the Walther PPQ Q4 Tac, or just the Walther PPQ in general, just any of the models, which is a trigger. The trigger is undoubtedly, if not among the best, it might be the best striker fired trigger currently on the market, and that is saying a lot. And I'm talking out of the box, you know, not counting aftermarket triggers and that type of thing. The trigger is rated at about 5.6 pounds, but it feels incredibly lighter, and that's due to the way it breaks. So when you first take up, so again, we're gonna have to do the whole ghost scene where you know, I put my fingers over yours and we squeeze the trigger together. So on this particular handgun, you have a very short amount of take up. You have this kind of rolling kind of pull until you hit the wall. That wall is incredibly light and it breaks very cleanly. Then what's great is the reset is incredibly short, shorter than even a Glock, and that's saying a lot because I love the reset on Glock triggers. There's a reset right there, and then the pull. Now what's cool is that when you hit the reset, so when you're firing really quickly, you should be firing and then releasing to reset and then firing again. So because you don't have to do all that take up like you do with the first pull, those subsequent shots are actually pretty quick and very simplistic. A good trigger is incredibly important. A good trigger makes shooting that much easier. There's no doubt about it. So the excellent trigger on the PPQ definitely lends itself to making the weapon a lot more shootable. Now there are a couple other factors that come into play as we kind of move further up the weapon, but the trigger is excellent. So let's compare that to a Glock here. We have our take up, pretty short. So the Glock trigger pull is shorter with the direct comparison. The reset is definitely a little bit longer. So overall, the PPQ is definitely a superior trigger compared to the Glock. There's no doubt about it. So if you're looking for just probably one of the best striker fired triggers alone, Walther PPQ without a doubt. Moving up from the trigger, best part of this handgun is the rail. So if you want to LARP and throw a laser on there or a light and any type of stuff, basically accessories that you're never going to use, go ahead and do that. Throw those on there, and that kind of gets us past the frame. So we've talked about the frame. Let's move up to the slide itself. And this is where everything goes wrong pretty much with the Walther PPQ, because everything that I've talked about so far lends itself to a very shootable handgun. And then you get to the slide. And the main problem with the slide, just straight off the bat, and kind of what leads to a lot of the other problems, is the height. The slide is very tall. And now when I say very tall, it's not like incredibly, but it's enough to where it becomes a problem. So a lot of people say, well, it's not that much higher. No, but it definitely is significantly higher. And because of that, don't forget that the height just isn't at the back. You have the entire slide there, and that's a lot of weight that adds up. So because of that, we also have a barrel that is higher. So you have a higher, what we call bore axis, which is the height of the barrel over your grip and that type of thing. So what that means is that when I'm firing the handgun, because all that mass is reciprocating a little bit higher than it would like on a Glock, for example. And I do compare it to the Glock because everybody uses them and they're great handguns. You give a lot more felt recoil. And I know a lot of people are quick to point out that, oh, what a wuss, you're complaining about 9mm recoil, like be a man, handle the recoil. I see where you're coming from, but let me postulate this. A 1022 on semi-auto is incredibly easy to run and just shred on a target with because there's no recoil, there's no flash, any of that kind of stuff. Very easy to shoot. A 5.56 AR is pretty easy, but not nearly as easy as a 1022. But if you could have a 5.56 AR that recoiled and had the flash of a 1022 without any detriments to function and form and that type of thing, why wouldn't you? So everyone's kind of yelling about, hey, control recoil like a man, but if advances in technology allow handguns to recoil more softly and to keep me on target for a longer period of time as I pull the trigger rapidly, then why not? So don't argue with me about that. But so we have a height of a bore that is a problem. So you have all these great things, great grip, great trigger, but then you end up actually having more felt recoil because of the height of that slide, and that actually makes me run the gun a little bit slower. Now let me say this first. I will say that draw to my first shot on target, very fast, faster than my Glock, because that trigger is light, I'm very confident with it. But as I start pushing the gun past that failure point, about 3 rounds, 4 rounds, and I start having to run that cadence, because of the muzzle flip, I find that my cadence actually slows down compared to a lot of other handguns like the CZs or the Glock 19, 17s and that type of thing. So that ends up being the problem with the Walther PPQ. Now, depending on how you're shooting this gun, if you're just kind of plinking at tin cans out there, this is going to be excellent. When you're starting to get into longer strings of fire, this could be a definite problem. And that's not the only problem here. The sights are great, right? The rear sight is windage, elevation adjustable. Front sight is high vis fiber optic. Very easy to bring to the eye, very easy to pick up and all that type of thing. But the problem is that the PPQ Q4 Tac has been marketed as a weapon that you can add an optic to. So it is already pre-cut for optics, much like a Glock MOS. But unlike the Glock MOS, this slide is very tall. So when you go to mount an optic, you have a very tall optic, and not just that, but the rear sight is actually attached to the mounting plate. So when you mount an optic, you lose the rear sight. For any type of serious handgun usage, many people prefer to have iron sights that witness through their pistol optic. That way, if the pistol optic breaks or something else happens to it where it is no longer functioning, that you can simply look through the iron sights and continue to use your handgun in a situation that might involve your life in the balance. So the fact that they have a handgun that is marketed as a tactical model, but then when you remove when you go to mount an optic, you are no longer able to have iron sights to look through, that becomes a problem. And a lot of people will point out that, hey, when you mount a Delta Point Pro, there is a rear sight that you can put in there. Yes, however, the front sight on here is not tall enough to co-witness through that. I'm sure you could remove that and have your own sight put on there, but that would just be a very, very tall front sight, just very tall sights, and there are not a whole lot of holsters that accommodate that. So I find it odd. It's an odd design choice to do that. And I know people would be quick to point out that the Glock MOS also mounts the optic a little higher. True, but not nearly as high as the Walther due to the height of the slide. And then they'll be quick to point out that the Glock MOS also, with the in stock form, does not allow you to co-witness irons through it. And that is true. However, you can get Ameriglow extra tall sights and you can co-witness through that optic. And it is a little bit taller, but they still work. So the point is that you can still have irons on the Glock MOS that works compared to on the Walther PPQ. So because of that alone, I'm not a huge fan of that. So if you can use this for duty use, don't put an optic on it. And if you're getting this pistol because you want to put an optic on it, well, that kind of just ruled it out for any type of duty use. So kind of an odd, not kind of, this is an odd design choice and I don't agree with it at all. Moving over to the barrel. The barrel's great. Threaded for suppressor use. I've done a lot of suppressor shooting on this particular handgun. The barrel is incredibly accurate. This is a very accurate handgun. Dare I say, more accurate than the Glock. Not that the Glocks are super accurate handguns to start off with, but I find myself very accurate when I'm shooting groupings with this particular handgun. So if you're looking for a handgun with a great trigger and a great accuracy, this is something to look at. But if you're looking for anything else, I would say for a large portion of shooters out there, I think that there are better options. And I know the Walther haters are gonna, the Walther people are gonna come out and be like, you were totally unfair to that, you're nitpicking, and you're damn right I'm nitpicking, because there are a lot of really, really good handguns on the market right now. So if we're gonna make choices, we have to choose between some just killer handguns that have crushed the market. So for Walther to try to break in here, they need to come in with something that works for what it was designed for. And the Walther PPQ Q4 Tac missed the mark in my opinion. I think that there are better handguns for duty use that allow you to do a lot of things that they're trying to do. Now, there is no doubt in my mind that this is a very competitive price point for a lot of the options that are offered, but I personally would not recommend it for duty use for a lot of the issues that I've previously recommended. Very reliable, just not going to recommend it straight off the bat. So that's it when it comes to Walther. But here's the thing, guys, is a lot of people get really hung up on what handgun they're gonna get. And like I said, when it comes to modern handguns right now, in 9mm, they're incredibly reliable, they're incredibly accurate, so you really can't go wrong with one. I would much rather have somebody have a Walther PPQ Q4 Tactical with an optic, God forbid, with an optic on there, no rear sight, and shot 10,000 rounds through it than a super hardcore, tricked out salient arms, Glock with like all the coolest accessories and stuff, but have put only 1,000 rounds through it. Because the fact of the matter is, shooting is what makes you effective, not the handgun. The tool does matter to some extent or another, and I know that's what we do on this channel sometimes, is we nitpick on tools and we really delve into it, and I get super in the weeds on the details, and that's kind of what we do. But I want to point out and bring you back to reality to remind you that if you're not shooting your handgun, it doesn't freaking matter. So get out there and train. A couple companies that I recommend for training guys, we have Garrett from Cogworks, who actually just trained Post Malone, kind of cool. We have Bear Solutions, great guy. We have Haley Suchichik, who is Travis Haley, runs that company. And then we have Esoteric from Military Law Enforcement. Lots of different options out there. There are a million more companies out there that do training, and it's hard to recommend all of them at once. But I will say that look at reviews, look at their reputation, and choose a company that's going to work for you. But guys, please get training. Please shoot. And as always, guys, look cool. That's what matters. Training makes you look cool. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We have tons of cool stuff coming up, including some MP7 videos with Gun Mag Warehouse. So stay tuned, and I've got nothing else for you. Okay, so I do have one last thing for you. It's kind of something that I've kind of been harping a lot on this channel. And we focus so much on products and materialism that I want to take kind of a moment to rein you back and bring you back to reality and remind you that things don't make you happy. You can be very happy shooting a Scar H and a M240 Bravo and a 50 cal, but that happiness doesn't last. Things don't make you happy. What makes you happy are interpersonal relationships, family, friends, loved ones, that type of thing, and experiences. That's what makes you more interesting overall. So if there's one thing that I could tell you to do right now, and that will be really helpful, and probably we need a little bit more of in this world, is take a moment to contact somebody that you knew really well, or that you love, or that it means a lot to you. And don't be creepy. Don't be creepy. Don't do that. And just let them know that that they're awesome, or that you're thinking about them, and that they matter to you, and that type of thing. Those kind of messages are gold. And I'm not just talking about saying this to girls, even your bros. Just say no homo at the end. Be kind. Do that kind of stuff. Remember what matters. Guns are super cool. Shoot a lot, but don't forget why we shoot, why we practice self-defense so much, which is to defend those things that we need to. So keep those things in mind, guys. As political as I'm going to get on this channel, and appreciate everything. Take care.